If you're watching this, I can almost guarantee you've experienced it. That sudden, chilling silence. That moment when a connection you thought was real, maybe a new romantic partner, a potential collaborator, or even just a promising friend, simply vanishes. They don't call back, they don't reply to the text, and they offer no explanation. They just ghost you. It's a phenomenon that feels incredibly specific to our modern digital age, but the feeling it leaves behind is primal, a deep, visceral sense of being erased. It's more painful than simple rejection. Rejection, at least, acknowledges your existence. Ghosting makes you wonder if you were ever actually there at all. And you might be sitting there thinking, why do I take this so hard? Why does it feel like a moral injury instead of just a bad breakup? The answer isn't actually found in dating advice or relationship psychology. It's rooted in the profound ethical philosophy of the Lithuanian French thinker Emmanuel Levinas. And his work, which deals with war, ethics, and the responsibility we have to others, perfectly explains the agony of the modern ghosting epidemic. Levinas makes a bold claim. Ethics doesn't start with rules, it starts with the encounter. It begins the moment you come face to face with another person. For Levinas, the face of the other, and notice the capital F and capital O, isn't just a physical face, a collection of eyes, a nose, and a mouth. It's the sheer, vulnerable presence of another human being that suddenly interrupts your comfortable, self-centered universe. You were walking along, thinking about your day, and bam, there they are. This face is undefended. It's bare. It transcends all the categories you want to place on it, all the stereotypes you want to use. You can't control it, you can't fully know it, and you certainly can't categorize it as just a type. It is radically other, and that's the key. The face of the other is also undefended and bare. It's the one thing that refuses to be categorized or controlled by you. You might try to categorize them. They are a cashier, they are a nice woman, they are a frustrating client. But their vulnerability, their sheer unique personhood, always spills over those labels. They are radically other, defying your ability to completely define or own them. And that is why the encounter is the beginning of all morality. The moment you see that vulnerable face, you receive an instantaneous, silent command. It's a profound, unavoidable weight that settles on your shoulders. This vulnerable and defiant presence is, for Levinas, the ultimate act of self-disclosure. As he put it, what we call the face is precisely this exceptional presentation of self by self. What does that exceptional presentation, that fundamental ethical moment, demand? It demands what Levinas called infinite responsibility. Think of it this way. The other's presence holds you accountable. Their face says, I am here, and now that you know I'm here, you are responsible for me. You can't just pretend they aren't there. You can't reduce them to a tool for your own use. That responsibility is asymmetrical, meaning your obligation to them is always greater than any obligation they might have to you. It's scary, right? Because this means you are always on the hook. You are fundamentally required to respond, to engage, to provide an account of your actions. This is where the true violence of ghosting becomes clear. Ghosting is the complete, willful refusal of this basic ethical command. It is the action of looking directly at the face of the other and then choosing to pretend you saw nothing. It's the ultimate act of ethical cowardice, where the ghoster denies the person's reality, turning them into a non-entity simply to avoid the effort or discomfort of giving an explanation. They prioritize their own peace of mind over their infinite moral duty to the other person. And in doing so, the ghoster commits a kind of social murder, erasing the person's presence from their world. In the next segment, we're going to step into the ghoster's shoes and understand why they feel compelled to violate this ethical command, why they run away from the sheer weight of their infinite responsibility. We just established that the very act of meeting someone, the face of the other, places upon us a massive ethical burden, infinite responsibility. The ghoster, in their disappearance, is refusing that burden. But why? Why does running away feel easier than sending a simple two-sentence text? To answer that, we have to look at what Levinas called the reduction to the same. Humans hate chaos and uncertainty. Our minds are built to categorize, organize, and control. When you meet that unique, beautiful, and utterly unpredictable other, your brain immediately starts working to file them away. You're trying to take this unique person and force them into one of your existing, safe mental boxes. They are the supportive colleague. They are the casual fling. Or they are the easygoing friend. You're essentially reducing the other to the same, making them predictable, manageable, and controllable. You're giving them a script to follow that fits neatly into your life. But here's the problem. The other is always going to be other. They are going to surprise you. They are going to express a need you can't meet, ask a question you can't answer, or develop a feeling that doesn't fit your label. When they deviate from your carefully written script, your internal control mechanism breaks down. And that sudden breakdown is where the ghoster makes their choice. It's often easier to erase the file than it is to rewrite the script. Ghosting is the ultimate expression of the desire to maintain complete control over your own reality. By disappearing, the ghoster achieves two things. First, they protect their internal narrative. If they have to explain themselves, "I'm not emotionally ready," or "I didn't feel that connection," they have to acknowledge that they were wrong about the relationship, or perhaps wrong about themselves. Acknowledging that requires dialogue, and dialogue requires vulnerability. That's exactly what they're trying to avoid. Second, they extinguish the infinite responsibility the other person's face demands. By treating the other as if they were a disposable object, something that can be simply removed from the table, the ghoster is confirming for themselves that the ethical burden was never real. They are running from the asymmetrical nature of responsibility. They can't stand the idea that their peace of mind is less important than their duty to the person they met. Think about the sheer weight of what it takes not to respond. It's not laziness. It's an active choice of avoidance. It takes more psychic energy to look at your phone, see a message, and choose to delete it without a word than it takes to type, "I don't think this is working out." Why? Because the moment you reply, you reestablish the ethical relationship. You are forced back into the room with the person's face. You have to endure their questions, manage their disappointment, and provide an honest account of your decision. That is the definition of responsibility, and the ghoster wants none of it. So, for someone who has been ghosted, understanding this is vital. It was never about you. The ghoster was not rejecting your worth. They were rejecting their own ethical obligation. They chose to protect the fragile boundaries of their world instead of embracing the vulnerability required for genuine human connection. The violence wasn't personal. It was a philosophical declaration that they are not ready for the profound, demanding reality of encountering another. The good news is that understanding this process of erasure gives us the power to move forward, both as the ghosted and the potential ghoster. In the final segment, we'll move beyond the reasons and talk about the resolution, how to rebuild your ethical life after the shock, and how to move toward authentic, non-violent engagement. We've now seen the brutal philosophical anatomy of ghosting. It's not just rude, it's an ethical act of erasure, a refusal to honor the infinite responsibility that the other person's vulnerable face demands. The ghoster chooses to reduce the other to the same, to a simple file they can delete, just to protect their own internal peace. So, where does that leave us? How do we use Levinas's difficult ideas to achieve a real resolution, whether you've been ghosted or you recognize yourself in the ghoster's flight? The most painful consequence of being ghosted is the self-blame. You spend days, weeks, sometimes months, trying to find the mistake you made, thinking, If I were smarter, prettier, or more successful, they wouldn't have left. Levinas tells you that this line of thinking is fundamentally wrong. Your closure cannot and will not come from the ghoster. Why? Because the ghoster has already filed bankruptcy on the ethical debt they owed you. They defaulted on the moral contract the moment you met them. The ghoster's silence isn't a judgment on your worth, it's a declaration of their ethical failure. This reframing is your resolution. You stop waiting for the person to acknowledge your existence because you realize they are incapable of doing so without shattering their own carefully constructed world of convenience. The pain you feel is legitimate because it confirms that you are still committed to the ethical relationship. You recognize the value of the face, even if the ghoster doesn't. So, the next time the doubt creeps in, you don't ask, "What was wrong with me?" You tell yourself, "That person was simply unwilling to meet the infinite responsibility their presence demanded. Their choice to disappear was a commentary on their character, not on my existence." True closure comes from accepting that the ghoster chose comfort over character, and that choice has absolutely nothing to do with you. But what if you see yourself in the person who runs away? What if the idea of confronting someone and handling their disappointment feels absolutely unbearable? Levinas shows us that the very moment you choose to ghost someone to preserve your comfort, you sacrifice something far more important: your moral identity. The pain of that confrontation, the awkward silence, the tears, the disappointment, is the necessary, unavoidable cost of living an authentic, ethical life. When you refuse to pay that small cost of conflict, you are taking a giant loan out against your own moral being. You might avoid a difficult conversation today, but you confirm to yourself that you are someone who prioritizes personal ease over human dignity. You are choosing to permanently reduce the other to a discardable object. The anti-ghosting resolution is simple yet revolutionary: the two-sentence rule. When you need to end something, no matter how casual, you must provide two sentences. The first sentence should acknowledge their reality. "Thank you for the time we spent together." The second must offer your explanation, however brief. "I don't feel this is the right connection for me, and I wish you all the best." That small act, two sentences, is enough to honor the face of the other. It recognizes their existence, validates their reality, and fulfills your ethical duty to respond. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it ensures you remain an ethical, responsible person in your own eyes. You choose responsibility over erasure. Ultimately, Levinas's philosophy doesn't offer a simple path to happiness. It offers a path to meaning. He tells us that to truly live, we must abandon the delusion that life is about finding comfortable categories and easy answers. The choice is always before us. Do we choose the easy but empty path of reduction and erasure, where we disappear from others and they disappear from us? Or do we choose the difficult but rich path of infinite responsibility, where we stand firm, respond to the ethical demand of the face, and accept the profound burden of human connection? The world is full of ghosters who are perpetually running from their own moral duty. But every time you acknowledge the vulnerable presence of another person, every time you choose to respond instead of vanish, you are building a life that is fundamentally grounded in character, dignity, and integrity. You are choosing to live, truly live, in the presence of the other.